care who I am. My name's Lovelda Vincenzi. Welcome to this session on COP15, Desertification, Innovation to Preserve Biodiversity. So innovation plays an absolutely critical role in preserving biodiversity by offering solutions that are novel and meet the challenges of the environment right now. Furthermore, innovation is absolutely key to preserving our soils. And in this session, we're going to dive into some very exciting innovations that do just that. So in this session, I'm going to be joined by 4 incredible panelists. The first returning to the stage will be the president of COP15, Mr. Alain-Richard Donwahi. We'll also have, joining me on the stage, from betterSoil, a scientist, entrepreneur, and the founder of betterSoil for a Better World, which is an innovative startup to improve soil quality and resilience, climate protection, and sustainable food production. The CEO of betterSoil, Azadeh Farajpour. From MORFO, we'll have the communications director of a drone-based reforestation solution that allows us to restore deteriorated soils in natural areas to scale around the world in a matter of weeks, not days, months, or years. And then finally, from Santa Green, we'll have the co-founder and CEO of the pioneering company at the forefront of developing sustainable solutions for agricultural products in arid lands, the CEO of Santa Green, Benjamin Rombaut. Please give the panelists a warm round of applause as they join me here on stage. Are we missing one? He was here just a moment ago, on his way. A little breather. Okay. Well, in the meanwhile, we'll get an introduction from all of our other panelists. Azadeh, maybe you can kick us off and tell us a little bit more about the work that you do.
We are a startup, 3 years old. The startup is called betterSoil for a Better World. We generate money in 2 ways. One way is that we offer soil consultancy or partnership to companies in Germany, especially in Germany, but also in many cases in France, because we are now active in Paris and France. And the second path is that we produce a kind of natural soil fertilizer by collecting waste, agricultural waste, kitchen waste, food scraps, and we turn trash into treasure that can reduce environmental pollution and climate pollution. And this is what we do in Iran, Germany, Malawi, and Kenya.
Fantastic. Trash into treasure. Hello, welcome back. Quinton, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do at MORFO, and then we'll jump back as well to Ben.
Yeah, so we restore forest ecosystems, mainly in tropical areas in Africa, in Brazil, in French Guiana. Our particularity is to do it at scale. So we are able to restore large, really large areas of lands, degraded lands, thanks to different technologies, such as this one, really small technology. It's a seed pod that we drop by drone on the places we have to restore.
A seed pod that's dropped by a drone. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about the work you're doing at Santa Green?
Sure. Santa Green is a French Moroccan startup that cultivates deserts. Basically, what we do is we recreate oasis ecosystems that's using agroforestry with canopy trees, lower layers, intercropping. We're doing it at scale using technologies such as desalination, biochar, satellite analysis, as well as financial mechanisms such as carbon credits, biodiversity credits, to make it sustainable, agronomically speaking, but also economically speaking. And we're looking to franchise a model to make it more common to do agroforestry in arid environments.
We're hearing this word scale. Mr. Donwahi, why do we need to restore biodiversity to reduce desertification at scale? Why do we need big solutions?
We need big solutions because we have big degradation. Land degradation is everywhere, you know. And the loss of biodiversity, I don't think that the loss of biodiversity is the beginning. I think that land degradation is the beginning of loss of biodiversity. Even the beginning of climate change. And it's going at scale because it's going everywhere. You know, when we started with the desertification COP, we thought desertification was only in the Sahel region, Sahara, in Africa, poor countries, poor people. But today we're talking about desertification in Spain, in Italy, in France, in Brazil, in the United States, in India. Everywhere around the world we are facing desertification. It's not only desert, but it's a loss of land, it's land degradation that provokes desertification. And it's going to affect everybody, and it's going to affect everybody faster than we think. So that's why we need solutions. We need solutions now, not at a small scale, but at the large scale. We need solutions. And the solutions are here. You've heard. We have the solutions. So how do we do so that it's going to be developed at the large scale? That's my question.
Well, speaking of how do we do so it can be developed at a large scale, maybe we start with you, Ben, and you tell us a bit more about how Santagreen works, what exactly the solution is, and what exactly the scalability of that solution is.
Yes. So first, it's important to understand that humanity has been cultivating desert for many, many years. Oasis ecosystems are not natural. Most of people think oases are natural, but this is fully man-made. So basically, it's people going through the desert, and because of the topology of the fields, they're seeing like a source of water. So they're starting to build irrigation channels to cultivate using agroforestry system. The oldest oasis that still exists today is 7,000 years old and located in Saudi Arabia. And so when you look at this, you say, okay, so it's been 7,000 years old that this oasis is maintained by human, and this is good collaboration between man and nature. So how can we use all the technology available to replicate it? Why? Because it's storing carbon, producing food, developing the economy of the region, recreating biodiversity, fighting desertification. There is so many benefits of doing that. And so instead of trying to simplify the nature and doing monoculture or intensive farming, why not trying to use technology to understand all the complexity and to recreate it? And this is definitely the job of Santagreen. So we're using not only a platform that can give the best combination of trees and crops, depending on the soil, depending on the condition, but we also bring the assets such as like desalination, such as biochar, manure, because soil is also really important, and you know better than me. And this is all these solutions that we bring together to have like a plug-in solution that can be developed and replicate. It's also important to say that scale is not always an objective. You can replicate instead of doing at scale. So let's say you're doing 1,000 hectares. You have the chance to do 1,000 times 1 hectare, or just 1,000 hectares for once. So it's always good to arbitrate between scale and replicability.
I like that you bring in the dimension of how replicable something is into it, because often when we think scale, we think really big numbers. And also, it's nice to learn. We think a lot about technology, and we'll dive into technology in more detail as we go into the panel, but it's also nice to learn that sometimes the best solutions were things we were doing for ages, and we just didn't really think of them. You know, oases were things we've been doing for centuries, and to go back to some of those solutions and say, well, how do we replicate them and bring them to life more frequently is super important. Azadeh, I want to kind of hear from you a little bit more about betterSoil. We heard a little bit about the importance of soil and where it needs to sit. Can you tell us a bit more about the work that you're doing at betterSoil?
But let me first, before I go to the question, confirm what Mr. Donwahi said. Well, there is a strong connection between soil and climate. I don't know if some of you knows that soil is the second largest carbon reservoir on Earth. So it means when we treat our soil badly, the soil is releasing huge amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We cannot measure this impact, this scale, because it's huge. And UNCCD published a paper that between 2015 and 2019, the soil loss was about 100 million hectares per year. What is this? This is directly connected to climate, and that's why I can totally understand when he says desertification maybe was the driver of climate change. Yes, I can totally imagine why. And why also desertification or soil loss is important for biodiversity, because more than half of global biodiversity lives under our feet. A tree has its roots in the soil. The soil is the heart of a tree. And there is an article from The Guardian saying 59% of global biodiversity lives under our feet, and we do not know it. And desertification is killing everything. So now is the point, connection to climate, connection to biodiversity loss.
They're just about to change your microphone out. 1 second.
Connection to biodiversity loss. And what about food production? 95% of our food comes from soil. And desertification is killing everything. And now the point is, where should I start? It doesn't matter where to start. If you're a climate tech, go for at least soil improvement. If you're biodiversity, go for one way of soil improvement, because this is a bridge between climate, biodiversity, and food production. And it doesn't matter where to start. It's only the matter of to start in a climate area, biodiversity area, business area, or food production. You can improve many things with increasing soil health. And this is also what you said about it has been, we are doing it for generations, 7,000 years. Yes, that's right. But the point is we are doing it out, in many cases, wrong. And this is where we have to go in and bring maybe startups, for instance, like your startup, and your institutional framework to facilitate the blossoming of startups regenerating soil, decreasing soil loss, and increasing biodiversity content in the soil. And this is we also work on. We work on soil improvement because we see these connections. These are important connections we cannot ignore. And betterSoil, and that's why a company is called betterSoil, because when you improve soil health, you improve 14 out of 17 sustainable development goals. And sometimes I ask myself, when the soil is so important, why don't we have an SDG icon on soil, only on soil improvement and desertification, not hide it under life on land or biodiversity climate action thing. And this is what we do. The increasing soil health is the core of our business with companies in Germany, in France, and with farmers in their supply chain to decrease the emissions in the atmosphere and increase biodiversity above and below ground. People do not forget the biodiversity below ground. We do not see it, but they do exist, and they make life possible on the earth.
Wow, I think that deserves a little bit of a round of applause, doesn't it? That's a lot of information. And it really does remind us of why this topic is so important, because we walk on the ground, but we forget it's living. We walk on the ground and we forget its ability to bring in to sequester carbon. And knowing that 14 of 17 SDG goals are met purely by looking after the soil, I mean, that's just mind-blowing in and of itself. All that being said, when it comes to planting trees, Quinten, can you tell us more about how you're doing that at incredible scale?
Yeah, I wanted to add something to what you said. You were talking about generations. I want to talk about scientists also, because I feel like we have been doing great things for centuries and now trying to do them back sometimes, adding technology for sure. But there is also the transition with the scientists. We meet every day with scientists in France, in Brazil, in Africa, saying that they haven't been heard in the last few years, in the last 20, 30 years, they haven't been heard at all. They found amazing results. They have amazing studies about soil, about oasis, about forest, but they haven't been heard at all. And now we're trying, I think all of us are trying to get back this science, trying to mix it with some technology to, at the end, restore forest and soil. So that's the part about scientists. I really believe in that, and I'm really shocked when I have to talk with scientists there and that haven't been heard again. Talking about the technology, talking about the forest, once again, this little seed pod is the secret. It's a third version of this seed pod we have. So right now we have restored around 600 hectares. So always trying to improve that seed pod. We have 19 projects developed in the different countries where we are. And the idea is always to get larger and to add quality, of course, in these different projects. So to restore, with a word that we haven't said yet, but we might hear about it, biodiversity. So trying to add from 10 to 30 species per project, that's what we try to do with the different species. We select native species, we select for every project we have.
Quinton, I think there's something that people might have just skimmed over, because when you talk about a seed pod and planting trees, we often think, oh, it's really easy, I'll just plant something in my garden. It's pretty simple, you know, put tree in ground, fixed problem. Well, you said something quite important there, which is around thinking about the mixture of trees that you're planting. Can you maybe speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, of course. The trees we want to plant needs to be a symbiosis between the trees we are planting. One thing is that we're not planting. I always have the question: are you planting what forest are you planting? Is it the forest close to where you are restoring the land? Not exactly. We try to plant the forest that needs to be there and that will be there in 30, 50 years. With native species, of course. But what are the native species? How can we anticipate what's going to be there and what will survive to climate change and, of course, mitigate climate change when we have to? So in there, we add the seeds and we add also some fungi, some other stuff, secret stuff, to do that. It's a secret sauce to be able to, when we drop it on the land, a bit of water, so rain basically, and it goes directly in the soil and it protects the seed and it helps it to grow.
Fantastic. I'd encourage everybody to go and take a look at all three of these solutions in a little bit more detail. Mr. Donwahi, we were talking earlier about the importance of institutional powers and where they fit in and supporting innovations. Is there a specific innovative proposal that you have from COP15 that you believe is going to be an absolute game changer when it comes to the fight against desertification and biodiversity loss?
First of all, I want to féliciter, comment on dit?
Facility.
No.
Congratulate.
Congratulate my three partners here.
Yes. Since last year.
Yeah, I say partners because we signed a partnership with the COP15 presidency. Because my role is to promote such partners, you know, that can make the change. And I think that's what we've done with the COP15 is that we sign partnerships that are going to last beyond my presidency because they are going to work with the future president of the COP Desertification, COP16 and so forth. So their work is going to be known all over, you know, not only by a small amount of people, but by the whole planet, you know, because we need to know what is done. We need to know the solutions that exist, that have been brought up by young people, you know, and the work that is done in some countries. They work in Brazil, in Morocco, in Germany, and this work needs to be known all over, you know. So my role as the president of COP Desertification COP is to make the solutions to fight land degradation known by everyone and be utilized, used. We talked about former, known techniques, that have been utilized a few thousand years ago, a few centuries ago. And with the modern world, we change those things, Look, in my country, we base our development since independence on agriculture, Côte d'Ivoire, on agriculture, okay? And we always talk about mechanization of agriculture. But while we were developing agriculture, we destroyed 80% of our forest in Côte d'Ivoire in 60 years. 80% was destroyed by agriculture. We became the first producer of cocoa in the world. 40% of the world production of cocoa comes from Côte d'Ivoire. We're glad, okay, we're the first producer of cocoa. But we lost our forest doing so. Because we thought we needed to cut the trees to have land, free land to plant cocoa. In the past, a few decades ago, people were growing cocoa in the forest because you have a better soil with the forest. You have better yields with the forest. So we need to come back to those solutions, okay? We call them innovation today. We call them innovation. But it's not innovation. It's old, centuries-old techniques that are coming back. And coming back with people who didn't know about it when they were born, But they are bringing solutions that we can easily use. You don't need a lot of money. You need a lot of technique and know-how. That's what we want to spread.
I think that's wonderful to hear that, we're looking at old solutions, but it also then gets me thinking, well, then what is the role of all this new technology and AI? I'm going to start with you, Quentin, because you're using all the new technologies, drones, planting trees. What do you think the role of technology should be when we're thinking about undoing desertification?
Everywhere. It starts when you do the diagnosis of the land. There you can use, for example, what we use satellite, drone analysis. We also use field analysis, but even in the field analysis, you have new technologies used, because when you have to do the analysis, if you want to calculate everything, having a bit of AI there really helps. So 1/3 of our team is made of data scientists, just to let you know. Then when you do the planting, you need to do the planting strategy. If you want to do a planting strategy for 10 hectares, you can do it by hand, but try to do it for 1,000 or 2,000 hectares. It's better to use some technologies too. When you plant, of course, technology can also help. Not only, like in our project, we have 80% of the planting that is done by drone, but also 20% of the project done by hand. So it's the mix between the two that is good. And after that, monitoring, when you have to monitor, again, you can use satellite, drone analysis, and imagery to be sure that the land actually grows or the forest actually grows, and also maybe come back if you need to come back there because it doesn't go as you want to.
Ben, I see you nodding your head. Do you at Santagreen also, in terms of, it's an old technique that you're bringing back to life, but did you throw some technology and AI into the new version of how you're using it?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to understand that technology is not the solution. We like human. We love technology. We love new stuff. We find it cool and so on. But technology is not the solution. Technology is a mean to bring a solution. Planting trees is a solution. Improving soil is a solution. Doing agroforestry is a solution. You need to use this technology to replicate it, to make it at scale. But let's stop thinking of technology as the solutions that are going to save the planet, save humanity. It's never going to happen. You need first to find the right solution. You need to test it on land. And then you need to see in what extent you can use technology to make it more replicable, to make it at scale, to make it more accessible, and AI is a good stuff to make it accessible. For instance, at ChangeNOW, AI is a very galvanized word, but this is how we use it at ChangeNOW. So we have a lot of database that we've made ourselves, a lot of knowledge and so on. And so we put everything into the machine, and so we can ask questions that nobody can answer through internet. And this is how you use AI to make this knowledge accessible to the smallholder farmers, to your clients. And this is why the solution is not technology, is knowledge, as you say, is know-how. And technology is just there to help us to make it more accessible to everyone. And I think it's very important to understand that. Technology is not going to save us. We need to use technology to spread the solutions.
So I'm hearing technologies used to spread solutions, to analyze data. Azadeh, how are you using technology when it comes to looking at the soil and evaluating it? Or does technology have no place when we're looking at soil?
Well, it's very important to use technology to first understand what kind of solution is where needed. On what kind of soil, what kind of farm, and so on, and how to measure the improvement and how to monitor it. So technology can help us in many ways, but we are at the time of blossoming of technology. Technology is blossoming everywhere in the world. And at the same time, we are at the time of losing biodiversity at the highest speed, losing fertile soil at the highest speed, climate change, 40 billion tons of carbon emission, greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. What is wrong? Technology is on the one side there, and the other side we have so many global problems. Is there a connection between technology and solving this? Are the solutions there so that the technology can bring the solution into practice? I'm asking myself, if we use technology to improve our life, what is wrong at the moment that we are making so many problems on the global scale? Where is the role of technology at this stage? Where is it, really?
It's a very good question, Mr. Donwahi. Do you have the answer to it?
I don't know if I have the answer, but I can recognize that artificial intelligence will help us a lot. Benjamin talked about data analysis. With artificial intelligence, data analysis is quick. You see, in the work that I do, I've been often questioned on the financing project. You see, whether it be with public finance or private finance. Most of the time, financing a project takes time. When you go to the World Bank, when you go to any institutional financing or private financing, it takes time. First, they ask for a project, for the study, a feasibility study for your project. So some people don't have the money to do the feasibility study itself. So they have to go and borrow the money for that. Then they have to go and do the feasibility study. A lot of times it takes 1 year to do the feasibility study of a project. 1 year. And then we go to the financing institution. It takes another year. By the time the finance is ready for your project, it takes 2 years. Your project is not viable anymore. So we have a problem. We have to act now for the future. But we have to act now. So artificial intelligence can help us to act now, to prepare our projects for now, to go faster. And for countries where money is a problem, developing countries, poorest countries, where money is a problem, we can save money with artificial intelligence. Because it costs a lot of money to have specialists coming in your country to study something that artificial intelligence can do in a matter of seconds, you know? So we can use artificial intelligence to help us. But as he said, not to find the solutions, really, but to help us to get to the solutions. But it's a question of objective, of clear objective. It's a question of having the leaders to do it, you know, to implement these, attaining these objectives. And young people like they are, like you are, you know, to have a new mindset. We need a new mindset, new ideas, new ways of doing things, no limitation, no brainwashed knowledge. You know, we need to change now. I was saying earlier, we need to change now, and it's time to do it.
I think it's a really great perspective, because often we look at technology or artificial intelligence as the solution. And what I'm hearing here is it's not really the solution. Planting trees is the solution. Improving the soil is the solution. That's what the real solution is. But there is a really important role in terms of speed, is what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Donwahi, in terms of speed to action, in being able to do those feasibility studies perhaps 5 times quicker than we otherwise would have done, allowing innovations like those we see here on the stage to get the funding that they need so that we can get the results that we need so much quicker. Fantastic. Next question. How can innovators, I'm going to start with, who should I start with? Oh, okay, look at this. Not me. Ben, you look like you're the most excited to get started. How can innovators collaborate with institutional powers? Perhaps we can provide some examples of successful ways. I mean, you've got the partnership with COP15, but are there other partnerships or other successful ways of collaborating that are allowing you to do exactly what we've been speaking about today, change now, move faster?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we are as startup as a way to function, which is different from UNCCD, which is different from investors. And so the first way to collaborate well together would be to understand each other's thesis of investment, each other's work and action, and what is also the origin of time. When we signed the agreement with you, Mr. Donwahi, I was wondering, okay, so signing an agreement is cool, but how we can put it in action, how we can collaborate on a specific project together. And this is how comes the desertification fresque that we co-created together. And this is a good example, I would say, to show that 2 different institutions can collaborate really well together at a very fast pace, because we created this in like 3 months. You did really good, by the way. Thank you so much. No, I was like, okay, alone, as a startup, as Century Green, we would never be able to create this desertification fresque. You alone, neither. And so this is how we could collaborate, because you had the thesis to improve the knowledge, the know-how to fight desertification. I, as a startup, needed to improve the know-how on desertification, the problems, and so to the companies that are doing agriculture, to show them that their way of doing agriculture is not the right one. There should be regenerative agriculture to get less desertification. And so we had like common objectives. We worked together, but we really found the right opportunity to do it. And this is why we're here today, thanks to you, and thanks to these projects that we've been able to do together. And yeah, good communication and understand each other. It's really important.
Is the game here as well? Can people play while they're here?
Yeah, exactly. So you have the desertification fresque over there, biodiversity section. and I would strongly advise you all to go and check at this fresque. This is really, really cool game, and you will learn everything about desertification. You will understand that the problem and solution is not that easy. And like we might think about desertification as one problem, biodiversity as another problem, climate change as a third one, but everything is connected. And this is what is important to understand to get the right solution, not tackle just one issue, but have like a holistic point of view. It's really, really important to get the right solution.
Azadeh, speaking of, it's not siloed, they're all kind of connected. How have you found the best way to engage with institutional powers to get more momentum behind improving our soil?
Well, first of all, we need to educate. This is what we are doing at the moment. We need to raise awareness on the topic why, for instance, the role of UNCCD is important, or the role of COP15 is important on the topic of soil desertification or soil loss, for instance. This is one thing. And the second thing is, when you are a startup, mostly you rely on investment money. And the investors go to countries where there is the most stability. And this stability, economic stability or political stability, is assured or ensured by institutions. So for instance, when you have, I can give you an example from our side. We have a production site in Iran. And we know that it's at the moment difficult on the political level. But the local institutional organizations give us the ensurement that our production site exists. They support us with production location, they support us with title, they support us and facilitate and that we can grow. So otherwise, I would not go to this country and invest and set up a production site to collect waste from the city. I need the collaboration with city council that they provide us with the city rubbish, city trash, city waste. And they can provide us with this kind of support that we can thrive and we can improve or bring in our innovation into the practice. So without institutional support, it would be very difficult for us to improve soil, for instance, in the region of Munich, without support of their municipality or without the support of the city council. How can we get access to the land in this region? And that's why we are at the moment in the conversation of the city council of Ulm, where we are located in the headquarters, as the headquarters in Germany, so that they can provide us with the soil of the agricultural land and the location where we can put our business into. So this is how institution can help businesses to thrive. Otherwise, without institution, without political stability, who can ensure that I build up a business somewhere? You are doing in different countries, and you are doing in different countries, and somehow someone comes and take over your business. This is your baby, working on it for the last 20 years. So this assurance we need from local institutions so that we can exist and plan for the next 20 years, because it's a long-term business, it's not for today on tomorrow. And this is what I expect from institutions, to give me the place and political framework so that I can do my business and bring innovation into the practice.
You bring up a topic we haven't spoken about very much, which is the political stability. You put all this effort and life force and innovation to create a business that's a commercial entity, and you want to go to the places that need the most support, and yet sometimes those are the places with the least stability politically, which means the risk to your business is incredible, but the impact that you can have if you're able to be settled there is also incredible. And so there is a real role of the local councils and political institutions to be able to provide that support. Quinton, I could see you were nodding your head quite profusely. How do you collaborate with institutional partners?
I was nodding because this question of stability is a super good question. I agree. We were in Gabon, we're still in Gabon, but it's hard there for the reason you know. In Brazil, we now have a time of stability. We hope it's going to last. Yeah, it goes fast because there is this stability. But I think everybody needs to understand that if we are able to go fast, if we are able to restore fast, it's because we have money. And why do we have money? Because we're startups, and we get the money from funders, and they want us to go fast. And of course, if I need to choose between different countries, I will try to go where I have the stability, where I can go fast first, but also where my funders will get money back. So that's really important. And I also think that it comes to, are we brave enough? Are we brave enough as startups to understand local institution or global institution and to take the time to listen to their needs? Communication needs, of course, they exist. Political needs, of course, they exist. But also local needs, of course, they exist also. But are local institutions also brave enough to hear about what we say? And are our investors brave enough to wait for the time, for the return on investment they did? Are they brave enough to understand that we need more time to do it?
Mr. Donwahi, we're talking bravery now. People need to be brave to move forward. You've done some great work with the startups that we see on the stage now. What do you think the role of institutional powers are in promoting and helping to create stability so that we're not sitting here feeling like we have to be brave to go forward to make the solutions and push forward the solutions in the right locations that are going to have the biggest impact? People want to change now. How do we create more of a space for innovators?
Yes, we need stability, political stability. I would say more economic stability before. Because a lot of times in some countries, political instability is created by poverty. And in a lot of places, around the Sahel, for example, you have political instability because of land degradation. Because land degradation creates movement, displacement of populations. Because they're looking for better land. Land degradation creates pockets of hunger. People are hungry. So in a lot of places, land degradation leads to food insecurity and leads to security population, security itself. You have wars sometimes because of food. Land degradation with the scarcity of water will create instability. So we need political stability to make improvement, to make the solutions that we talk about being implemented. But at the same time, if we don't do anything about land degradation, we'll have instability. And this instability will go very fast. You see, a few hours ago, I was talking about how fast some countries, developed countries, are able to gather money, finance, to buy weapons. When we had the Ukraine problem here in Europe, in 1 week, the European Union found 100 billion euros in 1 week. But we are not able to find that for land degradation, to fight against land degradation. Come on. Let's be brave. But in order to have our political powers to move a little bit along, we need the people to talk, to say what is right. What do we want for our planet? It's not only the politicians that have to be brave. You have to be brave. Because you are the one who choose your politicians. You know, I was elected before. I was president of a region. And after 10 years, I was not re-elected. After 20 years, I was not re-elected. I do something else. It's no problem. But the people choose what they want. So we are able to choose. So the people have to be brave. Yes, we have to be brave. What do we want for our children? I want for my children a better world for them to live. So I have to do things right. So that's why, as president of the Desertification COP, I'm trying to do things right. So the governments will understand what's the problem today, and we will change, because we are able to change.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, in a few years, I mean, look at the climate, the temperatures. Everybody, you know, oh, it's hot. Even I come from Côte d'Ivoire. We had 40 degrees last week. We never seen that in Abidjan. 40 degrees Celsius. Never seen that in Abidjan. In Brazil, a few weeks ago, it was 62 point something in Rio. Wow.
Celsius?
Yeah.
Yeah.
62. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So we are now, we have problems. Because the consequences of all that is that we are going to have problems with food production, agriculture, food production. You know? And if we have problem with food production, but we'll have wars everywhere.
So I'm seeing this is full circle. We need stability, but stability is difficult when people are struggling to feed themselves, but they're struggling to feed themselves because the soil is degraded, which means we can't plant as much, and we all need to step up and be a little bit more brave. I want to end on painting a picture of what the future could look like, because we have 3 incredible solutions here with us here right now that had the potential to really help be part of the change that creates that transformation. So Quinton, I'd like to start with you as we wrap the panel up. What is your big vision for where MORFO can go and what we can do? If I was sitting here talking to you in 5 years' time, what should we be talking about?
You want to start with Ben?
Okay, and then we'll come back to you. Ben, you see what he did there? Just bounce it across.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
starting?
That's
Come on.
it.
Oh, no, it's a really good question. And I told you the story about oasis ecosystem, which are fully man-made and have like a really good impact on carbon, biodiversity, social development, the economy, and so on. Now I will tell you another story. A story of green crescent, Mesopotamia. I think most of you know the story about when the agricultural aspect of humanity was born in Mesopotamia, a very green and luxurious place. If you're looking at this place right now, which is Syria, Iraq, it's a barren land. If you're asking now to Google or to ChatGPT why green crescent, why Mesopotamia is now a desert, why it's now barren lands, it's going to answer you because of agriculture. So it's a good example to see, like, we do have different type of agriculture. Either it's going to be regenerative, such as oasis, and we might have a solution for climate change. Or it can be destructive, such as what we did in Mesopotamia. But the real problem is, like, what we did in Mesopotamia lasted for 10,000 years. Now, because we do have a lot of energy, a lot of mechanization, we're doing this at a bigger scale in Amazonia, for instance, and in many other forests. And so the impact our ancestor has during 10,000 years, we can do the same in 10 years. So we're living a very important moment, a moment where we need to choose. Do we have to live in a world like looks like Dune, the movies that just been released? Or do we want to live in a world look like green place, lush place, oasis ecosystem? And so I have good hope that we're going to be able to do the right choices. We know which direction to take, and we just need to be brave.
So bravery and making choices towards regeneratively moving forward as opposed to destructively moving forward. Quentin, your time is now. We're back to you. Have you had enough time to think?
I think it's Azadeh time to
You cannot skip it. It comes
No,
to
I
you.
think, yeah, coming back to bravery for the future is a good thing. Having good choice for the future is a good thing. At MORFO, we plan to restore 1 million hectares by 2030. So we're going to restore, but who is going to be around? Who is going to have the bravery to be around and to choose to restore lands? I don't care about the techniques. You can do agroforestry. You can do what we call assisted natural regeneration, technical term, but I don't care. But let's really focus on the environment, the climate. And I think if people are here on the stage or here at ChangeNOW, they believe in that. But we need to share that around us. We need, when we discuss with friends, when we have dinners, let's be brave again. And it's for me too. I need to be more brave, but we all need to be more brave, I think, when we want to share that.
A brave new future where we're focusing on, doesn't matter what the technique is, but bravely moving forward with techniques that regenerate, that are regenerative. Azadeh, what's your brave vision for the future?
Or I wish. I have a wish. I wish myself to see a world by 2050 that agriculture is collaborating with forestry and agriculture is collaborating with aquaculture. And not that every sector is doing its own business and the externalities are none of my business. No, agriculture is a combination, or the food production is a combination of agriculture and forestry, agroforestry. Agriculture is a combination of aquaculture, so it's like planting trees on aqua farms to bring these connections. And I wish myself to see thousands and millions of startups in regenerating topic thriving the other way around, that paying for natural food, regenerative food, is much cheaper than paying for commercial food. This is what the world I'm working hard to achieve. I have a dream to achieve 1 billion people and to provide them with better soils. And this is a huge responsibility I'm voluntarily putting on my shoulder, but I do it because I see and I work for a better world, because we deserve all a better world.
We absolutely do deserve a better world. And to wrap up, Mr. Donwahi, COP15, desertification, regeneration, biodiversity, we're hearing about how interconnected finding a solution is. What is your vision for the future? I mean, we'd love to have you as COP15 president forever, but I'm assuming at some point you might want to step down and do something else. What is your vision beyond your presidency? If I was sitting here in 10 years' time talking to the future president, what sorts of things would you hope we'd be speaking about then?
I'm optimistic, I can tell you. I'm optimistic because in 2 years I've seen the change in the awareness of the importance of working against land degradation. I've seen in 2 years the change in the solutions that are proposed to fight against land degradation. And I've seen a change in the attitude, not only of the leaders, but also the solution providers. There's a difference in attitude. So I'm optimistic that things are going to be taken care of and that we will change. And I'm sure that after my presidency, I will continue to care about what is changing, because I intend to make sure that we put up an index of land degradation in the world, to be able to know what the leaders with their country are doing to cope with the situation, And, but I'm sure we'll succeed. I'm sure we'll succeed, because we cannot as human beings, be the one who are going to destroy this planet in our time. I don't think we are going to do so. And I'm glad that the youth is taking the lead now. And I'm going to help them take the lead.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I completely agree with you. Change Now is testament to that in some ways. This was a small conference that started many, many years ago. And if you look at the size and scale and scope, it's clear that we have more people who have got that sense of bravery, urgency, and desire to move forward. So I'm hoping that this discussion is helping to galvanize you and move you forward so that we can see yet more solutions like these and yet more collaborations moving forward. This concludes this panel. My name's been Lovelda Vincenzi. We've had Dr. Donwahi, we've had Azadeh, Ben, and Quintin on the panel as well. Please give them an incredible warm round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us. That concludes this panel. We'll see you at the next one. Have a great rest of your day. You're welcome.